Many people believe karma is simple. Do something good and life rewards you. Do something bad and sooner or later the universe punishes you. And perhaps that is why this idea has spread so widely. But what if almost everything we've been taught about karma is incomplete? What if karma is not a system of rewards and punishments at all? What if karma isn't something that happens to you, but something that quietly shapes who you become? The ancient sages of India didn't describe karma as a cosmic judge sitting somewhere beyond the clouds, keeping score of every action. They described something far more subtle, far more profound, and perhaps far more unsettling. According to these teachings, every thought, every emotion, every intention, and every action leaves an invisible impression upon the mind. Over time, these impressions become habits. Habits become character. The character becomes destiny. In other words, karma is not merely about what happens after you act. It is about what your actions are doing to your own consciousness while you are acting. This changes everything. Imagine standing beside a calm lake. You throw a small pebble into the water. The ripples spread outward until they disappear. Most people think karma is like those ripples, an action producing consequences in the outside world. But the sages asked us to look deeper. The pebble doesn't only disturb the surface of the lake. Imagine that every pebble also changes the lake itself, making it slightly clearer or slightly muddier with every throw. After thousands of pebbles, the lake is no longer the same lake. That lake is your mind, and that is where karma truly unfolds. The Sanskrit word karma simply means action. It comes from the root kuri, meaning to do or to act. It doesn't inherently mean fate, luck, punishment, or reward. Those ideas came much later through popular interpretation. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna never tells Arjuna to avoid action. In fact, he says something quite surprising. No one can remain even for a moment without performing action. Even sitting still is an action. Thinking is an action. Choosing not to act is itself a form of action. Life is movement. As long as we are alive, action is unavoidable. So if action cannot be escaped, then the real question isn't whether we act. The real question is, what kind of action leads to freedom? And what kind of action creates bondage? This is where the ancient teachings become astonishingly sophisticated. Imagine two people giving the exact same amount of money to someone in need. From the outside, their actions are identical, but one person gives because they genuinely feel compassion. The other gives because they want admiration, recognition, or praise. Modern society often judges only the visible action. Ancient wisdom looked somewhere entirely different. It looked at intention. Krishna repeatedly emphasizes that attachment to the fruits of action is what binds the individual. The external action matters, but the inner state of consciousness matters even more. This means that two people can perform the same action and create entirely different karma. The action is only half the story. The consciousness behind it is the other half, and perhaps the more important half. This idea appears again and again throughout India's spiritual traditions. The outer world is always reflecting the inner one. Our inner motives are constantly shaping the invisible architecture of our mind. Now, think about anger. Perhaps someone insults you. The first time you react with anger, it feels spontaneous. The second time, it becomes slightly easier. After years of repeating the same response, anger no longer feels like a choice. It feels like your personality. But according to the ancient sages, you repeatedly carved the same pathway within your own consciousness until it became the easiest road to travel. This is karma operating in real time, not decades from now. Right now, in this very moment, every reaction is quietly training the mind. Every repeated thought becomes easier to think again. Every emotion you repeatedly feed grows stronger. Every desire you repeatedly obey gains greater influence. The yoga tradition gives a beautiful word for these subtle imprints. They are called samskaras. A samskara is like a groove, carved into the mind through repeated experience and repeated action. Imagine walking through a grassy field. The first time, the grass bends slightly. Walk the same path every day, and eventually a trail appears. Keep walking for years, and the path becomes so clear that your feet naturally follow it without conscious effort. The mind works the same way. Every repeated action creates another step along that invisible trail. Eventually, your habits begin making decisions before your conscious mind even notices. The ancient sages observed this thousands of years before neuroscience discovered neural pathways and habit formation. They were not studying the brain with machines. They were studying consciousness directly through deep meditation. And what they discovered was remarkable. You are constantly becoming what you repeatedly practice, not because someone is rewarding or punishing you, but because consciousness naturally shapes itself according to where attention and action repeatedly flow. This understanding transforms the spirituality. It shifts the question from what will happen to me because of my actions to something much more intimate. It leads to a question: what am I becoming because of the way I live today? That question is both liberating and deeply challenging. because it means that karma is not merely waiting somewhere in the future. It is unfolding with every thought you entertain, every word you speak, every habit you strengthen, and every choice you make. Yet, this is only the beginning. The sages believed that these invisible impressions do not simply disappear when the body dies. They continue far beyond a single lifetime, quietly influencing our tendencies, our attractions, our fears, and even the circumstances into which we are born. If that is true, then karma is far more than a moral law. It is a map of consciousness itself, and to understand it, we first need to ask an even deeper question. If our past actions have shaped who we are today, then who or what is the one experiencing all of this? To answer that question, we must first understand one of the greatest discoveries of the Upanishads. The ancient sages declared that your true self is not your body. It is not your thoughts. It is not your emotions. It is not even your personality. Your true nature is the Atman, pure awareness, unchanging, eternal. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad declares, Asango hi hayam purusha. The self is unattached. And this statement is extraordinary. If the true self is unattached, then how can it become bound by karma? The answer is that the self itself never becomes bound. It is the mind that becomes bound. Imagine the sun reflected in 1,000 different lakes. If one lake becomes muddy, we might say the reflection has become unclear. But has the sun itself changed? Not at all. Only the reflecting surface has changed. According to Vedanta, consciousness is like that sun. The mind is like the lake. Karma belongs to the mind, never to the self. This subtle distinction changes the entire purpose of spiritual practice. Most people believe spirituality is about improving themselves. The ancient sages taught something different. They taught that spirituality is about discovering the self that was never damaged in the first place. But if the self is already free, why don't we experience that freedom? The Upanishads answer with a single word, avidya, ignorance. Not ignorance in the ordinary sense of lacking information, but ignorance of our true nature. We mistake ourselves for the body. We mistake ourselves for our emotions. We mistake ourselves for our successes and failures. And because of that mistaken identity, every experience becomes personal. Someone praises us. We become attached. Someone criticizes us. We become angry. Someone takes away something we love. We suffer. This constant identification creates the sense of I and mine. From this arises desire. From the desire comes action. From action comes karma. The Bhagavad Gita describes this chain with remarkable psychological precision. Krishna says that when a person dwells upon objects of the senses, attachment develops. From attachment comes desire. From desire arises anger when those desires are frustrated. Then anger clouds judgment. Confused judgment destroys wisdom. And when wisdom is lost, a person falls into suffering. Notice something remarkable. Krishna isn't describing divine punishment. He is describing the natural mechanics of the human mind. The suffering begins long before any external consequence appears. It begins the moment attachment takes root. This is why the Gita repeatedly emphasizes non-attachment. Many people misunderstand this teaching. They imagine Krishna is asking us to stop caring. That is not what he means. He asks Arjuna to care deeply, to fight for justice, to protect Dharma. But to let go of personal attachment to success or failure, this is called karma yoga. Perhaps one of the most misunderstood teachings in the entire Bhagavad Gita. Karma yoga does not mean performing good deeds simply to earn good karma. It means acting with complete sincerity while surrendering attachment to the outcome. Krishna tells Arjuna, "You have the right to action alone, but never to its fruits." This verse has inspired spiritual seekers for thousands of years. At first, it seems impossible. How can we work without caring about the result? But Krishna is not asking us to stop caring about excellence. He is asking us to stop tying our identity to outcomes. There is a profound difference.